Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. And you'll never miss a story again. I remember the exact moment it all started falling apart. It wasn't with a shout or a fight or some loud movie-style discovery. It was something small, subtle, a change in her tone when she said my name, like the warmth had been switched off. A shift in the way she hugged me, like she was just going through the motions. And I should have noticed sooner. But love makes fools out of all of us, especially when it's love you've poured years of your life into. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 38, an architect by profession, a quiet guy by nature. I've never been one for drama or loud declarations. I build things, steady, lasting things, foundations, structures that don't collapse with time. I thought my marriage was one of them. Emily and I had been together for nearly 10 years. We met in college, and I fell hard. She was light to my quiet, laughter to my silence, and I let her fill every space I didn't know I had. For the longest time, we were good. Not just comfortable, genuinely happy. We traveled, we built a home together, we shared dreams over cheap wine and expensive nights out. But life has a way of creeping up on you. Deadlines, bills, the stress of trying to be successful. Somewhere along the way, we started drifting. I blamed myself. Thought maybe I hadn't been affectionate enough, or maybe I wasn't the man I used to be when we first fell in love. So I started trying harder, leaving little notes, making time, booking surprise weekend getaways. But her eyes never sparkled the way they used to. She was there, but she wasn't really with me. The first real sign came on a Thursday night. She said she was meeting an old friend for dinner. I didn't think anything of it. Emily had always been social, and I trusted her. But when she came back home 3 hours later than she said, her hair slightly tousled, lips smudged like she'd wiped off lipstick in the car, I felt a pit in my stomach. I asked her if everything was okay. She smiled too quickly, said they lost track of time. That night, she didn't reach for me in bed. She turned the other way and fell asleep instantly. And I lay there, eyes wide open, listening to the silence that used to feel peaceful, but now felt like it was screaming at me. It didn't take long before the pieces started adding up. Secretive texts she'd quickly put away when I entered the room. A sudden obsession with her phone's privacy settings. New lingerie that I never saw her wear around me. And then, one day when she was in the shower, her phone lit up with a message. I wasn't the kind of man to snoop, but by then, I wasn't even thinking. I just needed to know. The message read, "Last night was unforgettable. Can't stop thinking about you." I stared at it for a long time. Then, I took a photo of it with my own phone, quietly put hers back on the nightstand, and walked out of the room. I didn't confront her, not immediately. Something inside me had frozen, hardened. I didn't feel the rage people talk about. I felt cold, calculating, like a switch had flipped. That was the moment I realized the man I had been, the loving husband, the romantic fool, that man had died in that bedroom, and someone else had taken his place. Someone who was no longer interested in saving the marriage. Someone who was going to end it on his terms. I started playing a role, smiling, pretending, letting her believe I was oblivious. I kissed her goodbye each morning, cooked dinner, even made plans for our anniversary, all while quietly digging deeper. I traced the number from that text message. His name was Ryan Brooks, a gym trainer, mid-30s, the type who posted shirtless selfies and motivational quotes. Exactly the kind of man I'd never imagined she'd fall for. But maybe that was the point. I found out they met at her friend's yoga studio. He'd charmed her, made her feel young again, maybe, alive. Whatever it was, he had something I no longer gave her. And instead of communicating or trying to fix things, she took the coward's route. She lied. She betrayed. I started documenting everything, screenshots, phone records, dates and times she claimed she was somewhere else. I even followed her once. watched her from across the street as she laughed with him outside a little Italian restaurant, her hand lingering on his arm like it belonged there. And it didn't break me, it sharpened me. Every betrayal was another blade I was quietly collecting. But I didn't want revenge that would fade in a day. No angry confrontation, no dramatic exit. I wanted a perfect revenge. One that would unravel her from the inside. One that would take everything she held dear and slowly, quietly, piece by piece, remove it from her world. It began with finances. I had always handled most of the bills, the savings, the investments. She had access, sure, but she never paid much attention. So I started moving money into a private account, slowly, carefully. I sold off some shares, canceled joint plans we had, telling her they'd lost value. She nodded along, trusting me as always, because I was the responsible one. Then I started making arrangements for the house. We owned it together, but I'd bought it before we married, and I had the paperwork to prove it. I met with a lawyer, quietly initiating the process of separating assets without her knowing a thing. He advised I be careful, that I'd need concrete proof of the affair if I wanted a clean win in divorce court. I already had more than enough. One day, I accidentally left an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside were printed photos of her with Ryan, at restaurants, getting into his car, even one of them holding hands in a parking lot. I watched from the hallway as she saw the envelope, picked it up, and opened it. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat down at the table, staring at the photos like they belonged to someone else. I stepped in slowly and sat across from her. "You left the envelope out," she said quietly. "I know." She looked up at me then, and for the first time in a long time, her eyes looked truly afraid. "How long have you known?" "Long enough," I replied. "Are you going to divorce me?" I didn't answer immediately. I wanted her to stew in the uncertainty. "I haven't decided," I finally said, "but I think you should move in with Ryan for a while. Give us both space." It was the last thing she expected. She blinked. "You're not kicking me out?" I shrugged. "I'm not angry, Emily. I'm tired. Just take some time. Figure out what you really want." She nodded, hesitant, confused. "Okay." And just like that, she left. But what she didn't know, what she never suspected, was that the real game had only just begun. After Emily walked out that night, suitcase in hand, I stood by the window and watched her taillights vanish down the street. There was no anger, no yelling, no confrontation, just silence. A silence I had been craving. I had handed her a path that looked like freedom. What she didn't realize was that she had just stepped into a trap I had carefully designed piece by piece. The first few days were quiet. I didn't reach out, didn't ask where she was. I knew exactly where she'd gone, to Ryan, the man she thought was her escape from our dull, structured life, the man who made her feel like a teenager again. I imagined their conversations, the excitement, the promise of a future together, now that I was conveniently out of the way. I started getting updates from a private investigator I'd hired weeks earlier. He didn't need to do much now. Emily and Ryan weren't hiding anymore. They were going out in public, staying at his place, even posting vague quotes on social media. She still didn't know that I had access to her private account. Her captions made me smirk. Things like new beginnings and sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. She wanted sympathy. She wanted to be seen as the brave woman who left a cold, distant husband. That was fine. Let her paint me as the villain. The truth would arrive soon enough. I had also spoken to my lawyer again. With the evidence I had gathered, we could move forward with a divorce that would leave her with far less than she expected. But I wasn't rushing anything. I needed time for the rest of my plan to unfold. Let her settle into her fantasy a little longer. A week later, Emily called me. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "I'm okay. You?" She hesitated. "It's been a lot. Moving in with someone new, trying to get used to everything." I didn't say anything. "I've been thinking a lot, Daniel," she continued, "about everything, about us. I know I hurt you." "You did. I never meant for it to happen like this." But it did. There was a long pause. Can we maybe talk sometime? In person? Sure, I said. Come by Saturday. When Saturday came, she walked into the house like a stranger. She looked around like she expected it to feel different. I had cleaned everything, removed all traces of her. No photos, no memories, just empty, polished surfaces. I feel like I don't recognize this place, she said quietly. It's been peaceful, I replied. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where she saw those photos weeks ago. She looked nervous, fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. I thought being with Ryan would feel different, she finally said. But it doesn't feel like what I imagined. He's not like you. I raised an eyebrow. No, I imagine he's not. He's impulsive. He gets angry over small things. He's jealous. He checks my phone. Interesting, I said, sipping my coffee. I made a mistake, Daniel. A huge one. I thought I wanted something exciting, something passionate, but I gave up something solid. Safe. You gave up loyalty? She flinched. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. But if there's any part of you that still wants to try, I held up a hand. Emily, stop. Her eyes filled with tears. Please, I know I don't deserve it, but you're right. You don't. She blinked. So that's it? You left. You chose him. You don't get to rewrite that now. But, Emily, you don't love me. You love the stability I provided, the comfort. Now that it's gone, you're realizing what you gave up. But it's too late. You don't get to come back just because your fantasy didn't play out. Tears ran down her cheeks. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed. I just wanted to be happy, she whispered. You were, and you threw it away. After she left, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, just resolve. That was the last emotional thread between us, and it had snapped. The next phase of my plan involved Ryan. I knew what kind of man he was. Reckless, impatient, and financially unstable. I had done my research. He had credit card debt, 2 failed business ventures, and a history of short-term relationships. A man like that wasn't interested in long-term commitment. He wanted attention, adoration, and, most of all, money. I started leaking information, carefully, anonymously. A rumor here, a tip there. I sent Ryan an email from a fake account, claiming I was someone who knew Emily well, warning him she was manipulative, unfaithful. I attached a few blurred screenshots of her texting me after she moved in with him. They were real. She had messaged me late at night more than once, expressing regret. I let Ryan fill in the rest of the story in his own insecure mind. Things unraveled quickly. According to my investigator, their arguments escalated. Ryan started accusing her of lying, of sneaking around. Emily, confused and already regretting her choices, found herself stuck between the man she left and the one she didn't really know. 2 weeks later, Ryan kicked her out, and she came knocking on my door. She looked worn down, her clothes disheveled, eyes puffy. She had a duffel bag and a desperate look in her eyes. Daniel, please, she said. I have nowhere else to go. I didn't step aside. Just for a night, until I figure something out. I gave her a long, cold look. Then I stepped back and let her in. Not because I felt pity, but because there was one last step. I gave her the guest room. Didn't speak much. She tried to rekindle the warmth, making breakfast, cleaning up, acting like the wife she had once been. But I stayed distant, cordial, empty. And when she finally asked if we could talk again, I agreed. We sat down in the living room. She tried to smile. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About everything. About who I am when I'm with you. I know I made the worst mistake of my life. But if there's any chance we could start over. I filed the divorce papers, I said. She went silent. What? You'll get them in a few days. But I thought I let you back in so you could see what you gave up. So you could feel it. The life you had, the peace, the love, all of it for one last time. Before I take it away for good. Her mouth parted in shock. You used me? Number Hane, I let you use yourself. You walked out. You made your choice. I just gave you the space to live with it. Tears spilled down her face. Daniel, I still love you. No, you don't. You love security, and I'm done providing it. She tried to argue, but I stood up. There's a hotel nearby. I booked a room for 2 nights. After that, I suggest you figure out your next move. It won't involve me. She left that night for the second time. But this time, it wasn't her choice. This time, she walked away broken, alone. Not because I yelled, not because I got revenge in a way that made headlines, but because I took away the thing she never expected to lose. My quiet, unwavering love. And what I built in its place was stronger, colder, unbreakable. But my story wasn't finished yet, because there was still one last piece of the puzzle to fall into place. And when it did, Emily would finally understand just how complete my revenge really was. After Emily left for the second time, I stood at the front door watching her go, not out of pain or longing, but to ensure I never had to look back again. She had returned with the hope of slipping back into her old life, hoping I'd welcome her with open arms. But this wasn't the same house, and I wasn't the same man. The divorce papers went out the following Monday. No long letter, no drawn-out explanation, just the legal proof that what we once had was over. My lawyer had done a great job. Thanks to the documented infidelity, the financial preparations I made ahead of time, and my ownership of the house prior to our marriage, there wasn't much left for her to claim. She would walk away with barely anything. No house, no savings. Just her name on a piece of paper, attached to a marriage she had buried the day she chose Ryan. Still, I wasn't done. Not entirely. Revenge isn't always loud or final. Sometimes the most effective revenge is quiet, ongoing, a reminder. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted her to understand what it felt like to destroy something irreplaceable and live with the echo of that decision forever. About a week later, she reached out again, this time through email. I got the papers. I don't even know what to say. You were always so calm, so steady. I thought you'd fight for us. I was wrong. I see that now. I'll sign them. There was no apology, no full accountability, just regret and confusion, as though she still couldn't understand how her fantasy fell apart so quickly. I didn't reply. I wanted her silence to answer for me. But the final act wasn't just about Emily. There was still Ryan, the man who walked into my life and stole what he didn't earn. He wasn't smart. He didn't have foresight. But he had a weakness. He thought his charm made him untouchable. And people like him are easy to unravel if you understand how to push. You see, Ryan had ambitions. I learned from my PI that he'd been trying to open a new fitness studio, pitching it to investors, using his social media following to sell a polished image. I also learned that he was deep in debt, maxed out credit cards, late car payments, a string of unpaid bills under his belt. So I helped him. Not in a way he would recognize. No direct contact, no confrontation. I sent anonymous tips to the landlord of the commercial space he was trying to lease, informing them of Ryan's past defaults. I reached out to one of his potential investors through a fake name and warned him about Ryan's unstable financial history, attaching public records and screenshots of lawsuits he'd been involved in years earlier. Deals began falling through. The location he was banking on suddenly became unavailable. One investor backed out just before contracts were signed. I heard he was confused, panicked. Then he went online, posting more aggressively, begging for clients, offering discounts, desperate to keep his dream alive. It was sad almost, but that's what happens when someone builds their house on someone else's ruin. Emily tried to reach out again. She texted once more after the divorce was finalized. Just a simple message. I miss you. I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. No response, no acknowledgement. That part of my life was over, and I had no intention of reopening that door. Months passed. Slowly, the sharpness of it all faded. The tension left my shoulders. The silence that once felt heavy now became peaceful again. I returned to my projects, started traveling more, reconnected with friends I'd let slip away during the marriage. I didn't explain what happened to many people. Those who needed to know already did. The rest didn't matter. One afternoon, I stopped by a small art gallery in the city, a place Emily and I had once visited years ago. I expected memories to flood in, but they didn't. Instead, I felt calm, free. As I stood staring at a painting of a broken bridge over calm water, I realized something important. Revenge hadn't consumed me. It had focused me. It gave me the clarity to walk away from something that no longer served me, and it gave me the strength to rebuild without resentment. A month later, I ran into Emily again. It was at a local cafe, the kind we used to visit on weekends. I was waiting in line when I saw her walk in. She looked thinner, worn down, her eyes tired. She spotted me and froze for a second. Then she gave a small, cautious smile and walked over. "Hey," she said softly. I nodded. "Hey, you look good. Thanks. You okay?" She hesitated. "I'm getting there." There was a long pause. She looked like she had so much she wanted to say but didn't know how. "I still think about everything," she finally said. "Sometimes I wake up and wonder what my life would have been if I hadn't, you know." I waited. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I do wish I'd done things differently." "I know," I said simply. "I don't expect anything," she added quickly. "I just needed to say it." I nodded again. "Take care of yourself, Emily." She gave me one last look, hopeful but resigned. Then she turned and walked away. No hug, no tears, just quiet acceptance. And that was enough. After that, I rarely thought of her. The house became mine again, not just legally, but emotionally. I started dating slowly, carefully, not out of loneliness, but because I was finally ready. And this time, I knew better. I knew how to look past charm and into character, how to see beneath the surface. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. Some might say I should have let it go, moved on without playing a single card. But I needed closure. I needed to see it through, to ensure that those who betrayed me would understand the weight of their actions. Not through vengeance or cruelty, but through patience, precision. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about rebuilding a life so strong, so complete, that the people who tried to break you are left wondering how they ever thought they could. And as I stood in the doorway of the house I had once shared with her, the place where everything ended and everything began again, I realized something I wish I'd known all along. Some endings aren't punishments. They're second chances in disguise, and I had made the most of mine.